Level 1. The Private. The bottom. You just graduated recruit training, maybe at Paris Island or MCRD San Diego. 13 weeks of being screamed at, sleep-deprived, and broken down into nothing. Now they put an eagle, globe, and anchor on your chest and call you a Marine. Maybe you're 18 and headed to a place like Camp Lejeune. For many new infantry Marines, that's a common assignment, but others go elsewhere depending on orders. You have a rifle, a rack in the barracks, and one job. Do exactly what you're told. Nothing more, never less. You wake up at 0500 hours, you clean the barracks, you do PT, you stand in formation, you get shouted at for having a wrinkle in your camis, you get shouted at for having the wrong expression on your face, you get shouted at for breathing wrong. A sergeant tells you to move a pile of sandbags from point A to point B. You move them. He walks over, tells you to move them back. You do it. That's the test. Not strength, not intelligence, compliance under frustration. The Marines don't need thinkers at the bottom, they need people who execute. You will typically spend about 6 months as a private before you get promoted, but those 6 months teach you something no classroom ever could. The institution is larger than you, and it will outlast your ego every single time. Level 2. Private First Class. 1 chevron, 1 stripe. Technically a step up. Nobody notices. You're still cleaning toilets, still standing the night watch, still the lowest person in every room. But now there's a new private beneath you, and the weight of that 1 rank difference is enormous. You are no longer bottom. You are the person who explains to the bottom what the bottom feels like. Your squad leader starts giving you small tasks. Keep an eye on the new guy. Make sure he knows the formation time. Nothing formal, no authority, just accountability. And you realize for the first time that the Marine Corps isn't a job, it's a system of weight. Every rank exists to carry something and pass it down. You're learning your MOS now. Maybe you're infantry, maybe you're an intel analyst, maybe you're a combat engineer. Whatever it is, you're getting good at it. Not great, not yet, but you can see what great looks like from here. Level 3. Lance Corporal. The backbone of the Marine Corps, also the punchline of every joke in the Marine Corps. You're 19, maybe 20. You've been deployed once, or you've been in the training pipeline long enough to see how things actually work. You know which staff NCOs are sharp and which ones are burned out. You know which lieutenants actually listen and which ones are just burning time until they can go to graduate school. You do the most work of anyone in the unit. You carry the heaviest load both literally and figuratively, and you get the least credit. That's the deal. Everybody knows it. Everybody accepts it. But here's what nobody tells you. Lance Corporal is where character forms. Either you become bitter about the system, or you become the guy who makes the system work. The Marines who rise fast are almost always the ones who are great Lance Corporals. Not because they stood out, because they locked in. You get promoted to Corporal or you get out. That's the fork. Most people reach it by their 2nd year. Level 4. Corporal. Now you're a non-commissioned officer. Now you lead. You have a fire team, 3 Marines. Their conduct, their gear, their performance, it's yours. If one of them shows up late, that's on you. If one of them screws up on a range, that's on you. If one of them does something exceptional, they get the credit. That's what leading from the front means. You absorb the failure and redirect the success. You're 20 years old and responsible for human beings in a combat-ready unit. The weight of that settles in slowly. Then, all at once. A brand new PFC in your fire team freezes during a simulated exercise. Everyone's watching. You don't yell. You get next to him, calm, and walk him through it. Afterward, you pull him aside. You tell him what he did wrong. You tell him how to fix it. You tell him you're going to drill until it's reflex. He nods. You repeat the drill until midnight. He doesn't freeze again. That's leadership. It's not a title. It's a decision made over and over again, every single day. Level 5. Sergeant. Squad leader. 12 Marines. Their lives. You've been deployed, maybe Helmand Province, maybe Ramadi, maybe somewhere you can't talk about. You've seen what the training was preparing you for, and you've seen what the training missed. Your job now is translation. Officers above you speak in strategy. The Marines below you speak in action. You speak both languages. You take an order from a lieutenant and you turn it into a task your squad can execute in the dark, under fire, with 3 hours of sleep. You lose a Marine, not to combat, to a bad decision back stateside. He was texting and driving. He was 21. You write his mother a letter. You don't know what to say. You write it anyway. You fold it, you mail it. You don't sleep that night. Nobody tells you about the administrative weight, the counseling forms, the performance evaluations, the accountability rosters. You spend 3 nights a week doing paperwork that has nothing to do with warfighting. You do it because your Marines deserve a sergeant who handles his business so they can focus on theirs. Level 6, Staff Sergeant. Now you're not just leading a squad, you're shaping a platoon's culture. You've been in for 7 or 8 years. You've seen 4 different commanding officers. You've outlasted 3 platoon sergeants. The institution has changed around you. You haven't. That's your value. Young lieutenants come to you, fresh out of the basic school, full of doctrine and ambition. Some of them are brilliant. Some of them are dangerous. Your job is to tell the difference and to quietly correct the dangerous ones before they get someone hurt. You're making around $3,600 a month. You have a wife, 2 kids, and a house just outside the base. Your daughter asks when you're coming home for dinner. You say soon. You're not sure when soon is, but you mean it when you say it. Level 7, Gunnery Sergeant. The Gunny, the most feared, most respected, most mythologized rank in the enlisted structure. There are staff sergeants who run platoons. Culturally, an experienced gunnery sergeant is often the heart of the company operations and key advisor to the company command. But the legal command authority rests with the captain. In practice, the captain runs the strategy and the gunny runs the world. You know where every piece of gear is. You know which Marines are struggling with their marriage and which ones are 3 drinks away from a problem. You know the maintenance schedule, the ammo inventory, the training calendar, and which clerk at the supply depot owes you a favor. You've been in for 12 years. You've been offered a commission twice. You turned it down twice because you don't want to be an officer. You want to be where the work is done, and the work is done here. A young sergeant comes to you after a bad training exercise. His squad underperformed. He's embarrassed. You sit him down. You tell him about the exercise you failed 10 years ago. The one that almost ended your career. He didn't know that story. Nobody does. You told it because he needed it. Not because it makes you look human, though it does that too. Level 8, Master Sergeant. The senior enlisted track splits here. You chose the technical path, deep expertise over broad leadership. You were the most knowledgeable person in your specialty in the entire battalion, maybe in the regiment. When something goes wrong with systems, doctrine, or equipment in your domain, you're the one they call. Not a general, not an officer, you. You brief colonels. You develop training curricula. You write the standards that corporals will be evaluated against for the next decade. Your influence is invisible and enormous. The Marines who are being made right now, they're being made by systems you built. You're 34 years old. You could retire in 6 years with a pension and a consulting offer already waiting. Or you can keep going. You haven't decided yet, but you show up every morning the same way you did at 18. Like it matters, because it does. Level 9, Master Gunnery Sergeant. The pinnacle of the technical enlisted track, one of the rarest ranks in the entire Marine Corps. You have been in for over 20 years. You have outlasted countless officers who outranked you on paper and outperformed most of them in reality. You don't run formations, you don't manage leave requests. You advise generals on operational readiness, equipment acquisition, and force structure. You sit in rooms where billion-dollar decisions are being made, and you are the only person in the room who has ever actually used the equipment being discussed. You are functionally the institutional memory of the Marine Corps, the wars fought, the doctrine written, the lessons paid for in blood. You carry all of it. And when a 23-year-old captain asks a question that reveals he doesn't understand what he's ordering his Marines to do, you answer him, calmly, without condescension, because you remember being 23, and you remember who saved you from yourself. Level 10, Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps. One person, the highest enlisted rank in existence. You were selected from every sergeant major in the Corps. The Commandant chose you. You are the senior enlisted advisor to the Commandant and the face of every Marine who ever wore the uniform without an officer's bar. You travel to every base, every deployment, every training exercise. You eat in the chow hall with the PFCs. You stand on the deck plates and you listen. Not for good news. Good news finds its own way up. You're listening for what's broken, for what the reports aren't saying, for the things that nobody says in front of generals. You give a speech to a battalion of lance corporals. You don't read from notes. You tell them what you wish someone had told you at 19. You tell them that the Marine Corps will demand everything from them, and that the only thing that makes that worth it is the person standing next to them. That every rank, every title, every medal, it's all logistics. The mission is the Marine on your left. Don't lose them. They remember that speech for the rest of their careers. Level 11, Second Lieutenant. The bottom of the officer track. You graduated from the Naval Academy or Officer Candidate School 6 months ago. You have a college degree, a commission, and 30 Marines who have been in longer than you have been an adult. Your platoon sergeant is a gunnery sergeant with 3 deployments and 12 years of service. He could do your job in his sleep. He knows this. You know this. The only thing that makes the relationship work is that you know it. You lead your first navigation exercise. You call a grid ROM. Your platoon ends up 2 kilometers off target, in the dark, in a swamp. Nobody says a word. They do not need to. The gunny looks at you. You recalculate. You reorient. You get them out. Afterward, he tells you what you did wrong, quietly. Then he tells you what you did right, calling the correction without hesitation. Look, sir, good leaders do that fast. You don't forget it. Level 12, First Lieutenant. You've been deployed. You've led in contact. You are no longer learning whether you can do this. You know you can. Now you're learning how to do it well. You're an executive officer or a specialty platoon commander. You're the connective tissue between the captain's intent and the NCO's execution. You attend every brief. You write every order. You track every resource. A captain above you takes credit for a plan you wrote. You don't say anything. You write the next plan and the next. Your staff sergeant notices. He tells one of his friends who tells another, and quietly, the entire battalion knows whose brain runs that company. That matters more than the credit. The credit comes later. Level 13, Captain. Company commander, about 180 Marines. Their equipment, their training, their readiness, yours. You are no longer a peer to your lieutenants. That shift happens quietly and completely. You are the authority. What you decide happens. What you overlook festers. The weight of command is not abstract anymore. It is every morning, every personnel decision, every call you make at 0200 hours when the situation changes and your higher command is unreachable. Your company deploys to Okinawa for 7 months. 2 of your Marines get into a fight with local civilians. It's a diplomatic incident. You spend 2 weeks managing the fallout. Your commanding officer is calm. The Marine Corps is institutional. Everyone handles it and moves on. But those 2 Marines had families at home counting on a clean record. You think about that during the investigation. It doesn't change the outcome, but it stays with you. You are 28 years old and you have more responsibility than most people twice your age will ever hold. You have earned it. That doesn't make it lighter. Level 14, Major. You've commanded, now you staff. You're at a headquarters, a school, or on a joint assignment. You write strategy. You develop doctrine. You brief generals. You sit in meeting rooms and watch large organizations make large decisions, and you understand, viscerally, how much of what happens at the top is shaped by the quality of the paper pushed at your level. Good majors are invisible. The system works and nobody knows why. That's you. You are the reason the battalion's training plan is executable. You are the reason the logistics chain doesn't collapse during the exercise. Nobody will write that in the official record. You do it anyway. You're also being evaluated constantly. Every assignment is an audition for lieutenant colonel. The Marine Corps will promote half of you. The other half will serve out their time honorably and retire with 20 years. Both outcomes are dignified. Neither is guaranteed. Level 15, Lieutenant Colonel. Battalion Commander, around 800 Marines. You have commanded at every level below this. You have been tested. You have been evaluated, scored, ranked, and selected from a pool of peers who are also tested, evaluated, scored, and ranked. You are statistically one of the best officers the Marine Corps has produced in the last 15 years. Your battalion deploys to the Pacific. You coordinate with Navy ships, Air Force assets, and Allied forces from 3 countries. You speak the language of joint operations. You understand that warfighting is not the hard part anymore. The hard part is getting 800 people from 800 different backgrounds to function as a single organism under stress. You brief the commanding general weekly. He trusts your judgment. He does not always agree with it. You disagree back, respectfully, with data. That's the relationship. Level 16. Colonel. Regimental commander, the edge of the operational, the beginning of the strategic. You have around 3,200 Marines and sailors under your command. You do not know all of their names. That is the first loss that comes with rank at this level. The institution becomes more abstract even as your responsibility for it grows. You're being considered for general, maybe. The list will come out and either your name is on it or it isn't. If it isn't, you'll retire as a colonel with 28 years of service and a record most officers would trade careers for. If it is, everything changes. You don't think about it. You run your regiment. You develop your officers. You make the hard calls. If the promotion comes, it will come because of the work, not because you chased it. Level 17. Brigadier General. 1 star. You've crossed the line. You are no longer running an organization. You are shaping one. Your decisions happen at the level of policy, posture, and force design. You think in years, not weeks. You plan for wars that haven't started yet. You have an aide, an executive officer, a driver, and a schedule that belongs entirely to the Marine Corps. Your personal time is a concept your aide manages on your behalf. You attend the change of command for a lieutenant colonel you mentored 12 years ago. You shake his hand. You remember when he was a corporal who almost washed out. You don't say that in the speech, but you think it the whole time. Level 18. Major General. 2 stars. Division Commander. Around 18,000 Marines. You are responsible for the combat readiness of a division-sized force capable of projecting power anywhere on Earth within a short time. That is 24 to 72 hours for smaller units. That sentence is not an exaggeration. That is your actual job description. You brief the Secretary of Defense. You testify before Congress. You are quoted in national security journals. Your name is in policy papers at think tanks in Washington. You still remember the grid you called wrong as a second lieutenant 30 years ago in a swamp. You think about it sometimes when you're watching a young officer correct himself under pressure. You never say anything. Some things are better kept as private fuel. Level 19. Lieutenant General. 3 stars. You run a Marine Expeditionary Force or a major command. You are the operational layer between policy and warfare. The President calls your counterpart at CENTCOM. Your counterpart calls the Commandant. The Commandant calls you. By the time you issue an order, it has traveled through 5 layers of the most powerful military apparatus in human history, and it lands on the desk of a corporal in a forward operating base who executes it with a rifle and a radio. That chain, from the Oval Office to the FOB, passes through you. You sleep 5 hours a night. You have for 20 years. You stopped noticing. Level 20. General. 4 stars, the top of the Marine Corps. The Commandant of the Marine Corps commands around 172,000 active-duty Marines, sits on the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and advises the President and Secretary of Defense on the use of military force. There is one of you at a time. You were chosen from every officer in the history of the Corps. You have been in for 38 years. You have fought in 3 theaters. You have buried friends. You have written the letters. You have given the speeches. You have carried the weight at every level, and you have handed it down. You sit before Congress and you testify on the readiness of the force. Senators ask you questions that reveal they don't understand what they're asking. You answer them anyway, clearly, without condescension, because the mission isn't the hearing room. The mission is the 18-year-old private who just graduated Paris Island and is sitting on a footlocker in a barracks at Camp Lejeune right now. He has a rifle. He has a rack. He has one job. Do exactly what he's told. You were that kid once. The Corps made you. You made the Corps. And somewhere tonight, another kid is stepping off a bus into a yellow footprint, and the whole machine starts again. This is the United States Marine Corps. Not just a branch, a culture. A 251-year-old institution built on the belief that ordinary people, pushed far enough, shaped carefully enough, can do extraordinary things. And It's still running.